In today's tutorial, we'll knit a baby hat by Yarnspirations.com. Welcome back to another Yarnspirations tutorial. I'm your host, Kristen Mangus of GoodKnit Kisses. Let's get started. In today's tutorial, you'll need a light number 3 weight yarn. We're using Bernat Softy Baby in color Little Mouse. We're also using Bernat Softy Baby in color Antique White for contrast A. Today's pattern is the Wee Stripes knit pullover and hat, but we are working on the hat today, and you can make a size 6 to 12 month hat or a 18 to 24 month hat. We're working with Bernat Softy Baby in color Little Mouse for the main color, and then contrast A is Antique White. You can choose to do it in the same color or do it in this contrast A. And if you'd like to get the full pattern, be sure to go to the link down below and click on that. We're going to work with a US 4 needle, which is 3.5 millimeter for the garter stitch, and then for the main part of the hat we're going to work with a US 6, which is a 4 millimeter. I'm using an interchangeable needle, so I can just take that right off of there and switch that. You can use whatever works best for you, but the circular needles tend to work really well. You can use a long straight needle as well, because this hat is knit in a flat panel, and then we will seam it up together. So we'll work through all the stitches, including down to the pom-pom. Let's get started. Download your copy of this pattern by clicking on the link in the description below. For this pattern, we're going to be working on page 3. So this is the first page you see. Go all the way to the back until you see all this. Now, it's got diagrams for the sweater, but we want to look at the hat. The hat is size 6 to 12 months, and it's got that kind of reddish color, and you're going to look for that number for your cast-on stitches. And if you want the 18 to 24 months, you're going to use the green one in 92. So we're going to cast on, Longtail Cast-on, 87 stitches. I've pulled out about 1.5 yards, and for a slower version you can see my channel for that. I like to start without a slip knot on a baby hat, so I don't have any knots on there, anything rough for their head. So I just put that lightly on here and put my finger on, and this is a regular long tail or slingshot cast on, and I've got the tail towards me, the ball in the back, and I'm going to lift up and go down, down, and then cast on. So lift up, down, down, and that cast that on. Let's do that again. We're going to scoop up through the thumb, go down through that first finger, and then down through the thumb area again, release with the thumb, and then pull that up so that it's just nice and taut. That's it, and then just keep repeating. And I'm going to work that in 87 stitches, and I'll meet you back up at the end of that, and we'll work on the first row. Okay, we've got our cast on. We've got 87 stitches for the 6 to 12 month and the 92 for the 18 to 24. Let's do the knit stitch for the first row. We're going in between the first and second stitches, inserting your needle, yarn over, pull that through, drop the old stitch off, and then you've got the new stitch on. Let's do that again. Go in through your loop here, yarn over, pull that through, and let the old one fall off, and you just continue working in this manner all the way across until you have all your stitches, and then we will meet back up after you've completed 8 of them. One way to know if you're on the right side or the wrong side is you can put a stitch marker and hang it on the front here. So you want to take your marker and then just place it on the front of this right side row here, and when we get to 8, you'll be finished and turn back to the 9th row, which is on the front here, and I'll meet you back when you're ready to start the 9th row. Okay, I'm back on the right side row. I've knit 8 rows, and just so you can tell if you've never noticed it before, what you want to do is look between the rows, and you see this is, if you're just starting off, this is your knit row here. And then here is your purl row, and then you've got a knit row in between, purl, knit, purl. And then, so these outward bumps are your purl stitches, if this is just your first pattern, if you happen to be joining me that way. So we've got 1, 2, so those purl rows or ridges become the second row. So we've done 2, 4, 6, 8. You can see them poking through because it was knit from the other side, and you see the purl poking through. So now we're on the correct row, and we're supposed to knit evenly and increase evenly throughout this row as per the pattern here. It says work 9 rows in garter stitch, knit every row, noting the first row is wrong side, and increase 4 stitches evenly across the last row. What that means is on the 9th row, we want to increase 4 stitches evenly. So I've divided it into 5 sections so that in 4 spots I'm increasing. So if you're doing the smaller pattern, you're going to knit 17 stitches, and then you're going to increase and then do 18 if you're working on the larger size. What that looks like on here is, if you really study my stitches, you can tell that I increased here and I increased down here, and so it's very minimized. Okay, so let's do that now. We're going to knit the stitches, knit 17 stitches here. So knit 1, 2, 3, join me back up when you've got 17, and I'll show you the increase. Okay, I'm on my 17th stitch, and if you've already done your 17th, that's okay. You can do it on the next one. We have 2 extra stitches in the end, so it works out. So when we go into our stitch here, we're going to knit over, and then don't let this drop off. We're going to work to the back and go through the back of that loop here and knit in the back. So that is a knit front back increase, and then you're just going to knit along until you've done 16, and on the 17th stitch you will increase the same way again. So continue along, and I will meet you back up for the next row. Okay, we come to the part in the pattern when we need to change to the larger needles, and we'll work in the stockinette stitch until the work from the beginning, which is this area here, measures 4 inches. So you're going to want a measuring tape, and you're going to work 4 inches for the small size, 4 1/4 for the larger, and then that's 10 and 11 centimeters if you're working in the metric system. We're going to switch over to the needles. If you have an interchangeable, you can just go ahead and switch over right now, just the right needle or your dominant hand, and you're going to work onto that needle to switch needles. Leave this one alone for now, and then you'll make sure and take that off after you're done unloading the stitches. So we're going to work in stockinette. Because we're on the wrong side, I want you to purl this row. So all wrong side rows are purled. So let's cover that stitch right now. We're going to put our needle in between the stitch here, okay, the front of that stitch. Make sure that your working yarn is in the front. We're going to go wrap around and push that on through to that back side and let it fall off. Let's do that again. Insert your needle, yarn over, and then push it through the back and let it fall off. Okay, so that's how we're going to work our purl stitch. Continue on. If you need something slower, be sure and visit my channel for slower stitches or previous videos. All right, we'll meet back up after you have knit 4 inches. Remember that you're going to purl on the wrong side and knit on the right side, and I'll meet you back up in a little bit. Okay, I've got my knitting to 4 inches, and if I want to do the 6 to 12 month size, that's correct. If I want to go to 4 1/4 inches, then that will be for the 18 to 24 month size. We make sure to end on a wrong side row or purl row, so I've stopped after I finished that there, and then we'll move on to shaping the top. Let's start that area now. Okay, we're going to shape the top. We're going to work 16 stitches. So we're going to knit 16, 1, 2, 3, 15, 16. Okay, we've got our 16 stitches here. Now, if we had the next size up, we would do 17 because it's written in parentheses. We're going to knit 2 together. So we're going to take these 2 stitches right here, put our needle through both of them, and work those stitches as one. Okay, so that's that first shaping here, and then we're going to repeat that same thing, and we'll have 1 stitch left at the end. So you're going to work 16 stitches just as we did, knit 2 together, and continue along until you have 1 stitch left, and that will be the end of that row. I'll meet you back and I'll show you what we did. Okay, I'm at the end. I've got 3 stitches left, and this is where I'm knitting the 2 together, and then we knit this last stitch. And that's it for that row, on row 1 for shaping the top. And then we're going to flip that over, and we're going to purl this wrong side here. So go ahead and purl, and then we'll come back and I'll show you the next row. Okay, you've completed the first 2 rows of shaping the top. This is where we had the 2 stitches come together, and then we knit another 16 and have 2 more stitches come together, and you continue. It basically divides it into 5 sections for you. And now this row, after we've done a purl, we come back on the right side and we're going to do the same again, but it's 1 less every time. So eventually it's going to work up into an angled point. So here's an example of what it's going to look like as you keep going. So you'll start seeing this definitive line, and when we work across here, we're going to see the stitches come together. You will always be working till one stitch where you see the last ones that had come together. Let's go ahead and work to 15 stitches here, and I'll show you what mine looks like. Okay, so we've got 15 here. I want to show you what this looks like here. So if you can see, we've got 2 stitches that come together, and then we have the one in front. We're going to work these 2 stitches together. So go between those 2 and knitting them together and continue on and do 15. So once you have several on your stitches, you'll be able to notice, after several rows, you'll be able to see that very clearly. And so it's going to be 1 stitch in front of where you knit 2 together the last time. So you're going to continue along, and mine is further down here. Let's do another one together. 15. And then you can see how this is where they angle together, and we're going to knit these. And you can see quite clearly it's starting to angle. And then you're going to continue that on and then purl the wrong side rows. They're just continually purled, that's it. So work until you have 16 remaining stitches, and we will work it to the last 11 as the pattern states. Pause your video and I'll see you back in a little bit. Okay, no matter what size you're on, we've got our down to 16 stitches, and we're going to work these together. So we're going to knit 1, and then now we're knitting 2 together, knit 1, and then knit 2 together right before that little seam there, that decrease. Knit 1. We're going to knit 2 together here. Knit 1, knit 2 together, knit 1, knit 2 together, and then knit the last stitch. Okay, you've got your hat now down to the last 11 stitches. It's been fully decreased, and now we're going to finish this up and do the seam. So we're going to take our yarn and cut off a couple of yards. I've already cut that off, so go ahead and cut it, and get your wide-eyed tapestry needle, your darning needle, and you'll want to thread that on through. And we're going to pull it through the loops that are remaining. So I've got my yarn here on this side, and I want to go ahead and just get it to where when I start pulling through the loops, I want to start on the opposite side. So just pull your circular needle all the way through until you get to the other end. And then you can use that to start offloading your stitches onto this darning needle. You're just going to pick up the stitches just like this, and then we're going to pull the yarn all the way through. Okay, so I've got it all the way through. I'm going to turn on the back side so I can get all of my extra yarn tails on the inside. Okay, so now we're looking at the wrong side of the fabric. Go ahead and pull this all the way through. Make sure you're completely through all of your loops, no splitting of the yarn. And then that just pulls that all the way in. Look at that nice tight top there. And we're going to put this back through the other side just to secure that. So we'll go back through one more time. Okay. And now that knot is secure. There is no opening there now. So I'm going to turn this over, and we're going to work upwards this way, which is actually down the hat. Okay, I've zoomed in a little closer. I want you to be able to see these stitches really well. So what we're working on here is making a seam. Now you're going to have extra fabric on the inside, and it's going to be the edge of these columns here, these stitches. So what we're working with is this edge here, okay? So there's stitches right here on this edge, and then there's stitches when you roll this back here, there's stitches here. So we're actually going between the bars between this row and this row. There's these bars when you pull this out. Do you see those bars? And then the same thing over here. So between these two rows, you can see these bars. So that's where we're going in between. You'll have to be able to see it on your own work. So we've already gone through and stitched this together closely. And now I'm going to find this first bar on this right side here. Okay, I pick that stitch up, and I'm going to go over here and go between these bars here, and I find right here, it's a little further down, so I'm going to go through those, and we're going on the top side, pull through all my yarn, okay, and then go to the right side again, and we're going through this next bar that we find, and then we go to the opposite side, pull those apart. We saw where we just put that last bar, which is between here, and now we find the next bar up, pull that through, go to the next bar on the right side, and continue that along. So we just continue these stitches on, going from the right side over to the left side, going through each bar, and you can choose to keep it loose so that you can see exactly where you went last, and then pull through a few stitches, like so. If you just kind of pull them apart, you can see where you just went through to guide you to find that. So we're going to go through the next bar on the right, and then the next bar on the left, always going from this top side. Just wanted to show you what this one's looking like after about 1.5 inches, and you're going to notice that it just models the appearance that these are just closing in together, and you're not even going to notice that there were 2 rows in between here, those side stitches. So it all should start lining up that way. Continue on, and I'll meet you back at the end. Okay, we're down to the end, and as you went through the garter stitch area, you just continue to pick up those stitches in between, or you can pick up actually the front bump between those 2 lines, and it picks up quite nicely. So this is working with the purl bumps here, and this is trying to go in between, so it's pretty similar looking. I'm at the end here where we need to join these 2 areas together. I want you to kind of rotate your work, and you're going to see that you got these 2 stitches running alongside here, 1, 2, and so we want to imitate that stitch again. So we're going to run this stitch up back through the one where we see 2 of them together here. So I see 2 here, and I see 2 here, and then I don't see any here. So we're going to kind of imitate that and join these together. So we're going to go through here. Okay, so we're making one side of that little part, and then when I come around to the other side, and we're going to join up where our this is where my cast-on tail is. So I'm going to go through here. All right, and pull that through, and that gets that stitch along that side, and then we'll go through it one more time to continue that line on. Okay, and you see how that's joining that up, and now you've got these stitches that are all matching up together. Pull that tight, and then now we can go through the back here and continue to weave in our tails. And you can work with the shorter tail. Go ahead and cut this and rethread it if you want, or work with the long tail and go up. You're going to want to pull this tail in through. You can pull it all the way to the back and leave it long, or just go up a few stitches and then come back a few inches. And then you're going to want to do the same with this one. So we can turn our work inside out and work along this seam here, and it hides it really well. You don't have to do anything fancy. But again, I would go through these stitches And then the best way to get your seam to stay is to go back on top of itself in another direction, because if you notice when you pull on this yarn, if you pull too tightly on the seam, if you've done it correctly, then you can actually make this smaller. You can keep squishing it down. So we don't want to do that. We're going to keep it nice and loose and even. And go up through here. And then go back on itself. So work in the opposite direction. And again, because this is a seam here that's showing on the inside, I'm not worried about being too particular about the stitches. And then you might even choose to go back a couple more before cutting it off. Okay. So that one's in there nicely. I'm going to take my other one. Okay, and so this is on the outside here. We want to work it to the inside. Go back through that other area just to pull that in. And then go ahead and work these stitches on through. Okay, so we flip that over and our seam looks nice and straight. All the stitches are lined up and even. And now we're going to put a pom-pom on this end here. This is the yarn that we're using for the accent. This is the Bernat Softy Chunky yarn in Antique White. And let's go ahead and pull this out and follow instructions for a pom-pom. To make a pom-pom, I first want to cut an extra piece of tail that's going to be used for tying this together. And then we're going to get our yarn out. I pulled out several yards here, and we're going to wind around our yarn around 3 fingers about 60 times. So let's see, 3, 60. Okay, so now I've got the 60. I'm going to go ahead and cut that. And these ends will getting trimmed up, so don't worry too much about that. I like to go ahead and take my middle finger out. What it says is on the directions here is to remove from fingers and tie tightly in the center and cut through the sides of each loop. So I remove my middle finger if you're able to do that. It works really well. Take your extra strand here and work it through the stitches. Or I'm saying stitches, between your fingers here. Okay, and so this can get pulled together tightly. If you have a friend near you that can help you, that works too. And I use my thumb to kind of help guide me. And that way I know I get them all very tight. So once I get that tight on there like that, I'll either remove it from my fingers or keep going. I'm going to go ahead and pull it off. So I've got that on there. I'm going to make a knot. A square knot is when you tie it one direction and then you tie it in the next direction with the other tail, and then that way it's not going to slip and slide out of there. And then we're going to take that and cut these loops. So now we've got our loops. I'm going to pull my tails at the end so I can manage it. Pull my pom-pom out. And now we start trimming. Be sure and don't cut this one just yet. You're going to need this for sewing it in. And we're just going to trim this up until it looks like the nice little ball that we want to use. You can cut it way down or leave it pretty big and fluffy. So continue trimming, and I'll show you how to weave that into your, or tie that into your hat. Now that you have your pom-pom made, I want to go ahead and put your darning needle through both of the ends here. And I did go around and tie again and tie a knot and reshape that just to make sure to hold these in a little bit better. Going to go through the end of your beanie here and take your needle and go up through these loops that go around in the circle. Go through between there on one side and then come out the other and pull it tight so that that is right up through the middle there. And then you're going to want to go back through that again and to another side while it's nice and tight. Okay, so I'm going to go through here. Actually, I'm going to go through 2 more times here. Okay, so we're going to go through, and then that's nice and tight. And then I'm going to go down through the middle here and flip it inside out, and then we're just going to tie a knot and then tie that off. So go up through the part that you came in. You can see your white strand here. So you can go down through here. And then before you pull it all the way through, get your little tails out. Okay, and then I just go back through this hole here. And then that will be my knot. Clip that off, and you have one cute baby beanie. I hope you've enjoyed making your baby beanie today. Thank you again from Yarnspirations.com. On behalf of Yarnspirations and GoodKnit Kisses, I'm your host, Kristen Mangus, wishing you happy knitting. Bye-bye.